So it's exactly midnight and my kids are sleeping. So I wanted to make a video after viewing a video that Rose Getty's just put up I think yesterday. It was a rambly video and she was kind of explaining the difference between like narcissism and self-worth and self-worth is not a bad thing, but then often you're gaslit into thinking it is, and pursuing your interests is not a bad thing, and like there's so many intricacies to everything she was saying, and it made me reflect and think about as it relates to autism, which is how I frame everything. As it relates to autism, I was thinking, because autistic people are often so rules oriented and we intrinsically need that. So often we seek out rules, and I think even unconsciously we do it all the time, and like other people do it too, but because we don't exactly fit in, like other people are like non-autistic people are comfortable in their neurology, and they have all those, they don't have those deficits like mind blindness and theory of mind issues, and everything like executive functioning issues, inertia, there's a ton of stuff, and it all varies on the person, of course, but person to person, but other people don't have to deal with that, but autistic people do. And so in order to, because obviously we're human, we want to get along with people, we want to be part of society, we want to be understood, we want to have a good time just like everyone else, right? But we can't get it like everyone else because we're so different, so we can't access it. And it's, what I'm trying to say is like at least for myself, I know, like I was always, what they call the loner, Aspie, or the passive like autistic person or whatever, and I couldn't even articulate that, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to mention that to anybody, like all my issues with like I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to figure out why people are doing what they're doing, and I tune out a lot of the time, and this and that, like I isolate and self-deprecate and edit myself constantly, trying to figure out what is considered right by others. And then of course you've got your own moral code and whatever. So as Rose was saying, what she was saying, maybe other like non-autistic people, maybe they get it. Maybe they're like, oh, self-worth. Well, duh, self-worth is great. Like, yeah, I'll do it for myself. Like, whatever it is. Like, pursue my interests, go to that party, go into theater, drama, do sports, whatever, like, and like they automatically know. And I think with autism, it can go two ways. Either we're so afraid of messing up that we seek permission for everything, because in the past we've messed up. In the past we've been like berated extremely, and like, because even parents, even like authority figures, they don't, when a child is growing up, if they don't know that child is autistic, or even if they do, they don't know how to approach it oftentimes in a way that's conducive to like the child's mental health. So either we become like overly like anxious and self-edit and self-deprecate, like, which is me oftentimes, not always, but and seek permission for everything and try to figure out what's allowed. Everything has to be allowed for us, like that type. And then there's the other type, which like is my son, like naturally, he's just born like that, is like, so he is severe autistic, but like he isn't so concerned with, you know, everyone's like doing that, therefore I have to like get in on it, right? Like I should do this, or and so if he needs to be taught, no, like you have to, you know, sit like this, you have to, like he has to be taught to figure, like he has to be taught, like rules are a thing and you have to follow rules, right? And then, so I feel like there's two types of autistic people. Either you're completely like free thinking and just which maybe that's not the natural autistic way. And then the other type, which is like they've been so beaten down by life and by people just for being what their neurology has like shaped them as, right? Their approach to life and whatever, because they've been so beaten down by that, completely like for innocent stuff. They're always seeking rules and validation and this and that. And I get that feeling from Rose as well, where she's like, you know, now she's telling herself, no, it's okay. It's okay that she's always talking about how like, it's okay that, you know, I'm making music, or it's okay that I'm proud of like something I did, or it's okay that I'm pursuing, you know, my own interest now that I'm on, you know, she's on disability, I guess, but you know, and so she's like trying to remind herself and intellectually like convince herself it's okay, like go for it, you know, because probably all like me, she was probably berated for pursuing her version of like what she's, you know, of what she's what she considers fun, or you know, her special interests, because the way it shows up is so different from neurotypical kids, right? Neurotypical kids, maybe even if they obsess about something, all the other kids are obsessed with it too, like Pokemon, right? Like when I was growing up, Pokemon, like like all the kids in my class, oh, Pokemon, like they had binders and they research it and they would, you know, but it wasn't considered abnormal because all the other kids were doing it, right? So their parents actually like obviously encouraged it and used it as like a thing, like, oh, you know, if you get an A+ or whatever, I'll get you like these special Pokemon cards, or, you know, like, and it was a whole, like, it was part of the culture and society, right? Whereas with me, or like autistic people in general, you know, even if they have a special interest, it often doesn't gel with what everyone else is into, or how everyone else approaches things. So like my special interest was like poetry and books and like Shakespeare, and you know, and I was, how old was that? I was really little, like 9, I think it started, like even before that actually, right? And then and around me, kids were not into that, right? So that was viewed as abnormal if I'm like reading too much, or, you know, because even for free time, the teachers would be like, why are you reading? Like, go out and play with the other kids. Like, you know, you get berated for, like, what I'm trying to say is it was completely harmless, and, you know, it was pleasing to my, like, neurology and the way I think, you know, as a child. But it was looked down upon and, you know, like criticized by even the adults because it was like not normal, right? And which I think is pathological in society, that everyone should be normal, and like, you know, that kid's not normal enough, or that kid's like seeking attention, that kid is like not seeking attention, like it's like, so my thing was I had to go to the library and I would like to read books, but then the teacher was like, why are you in the library? Like, you have to go out and play with the other kids, right? This is like, and how, because they thought that's how children unwind. But first of all, I didn't know how to do that. I needed like someone there with me to teach me how to, like, you know, socialize, and I didn't not have that back then. And 2, you know, that would get me wound up more if I was with kids, because I would be like trying to figure out what's going on, like what am I, like how do I interact, what, like, because it doesn't come naturally to me, right? So it would wind me up more. It wouldn't help me relax. You know how these, like, whereas if I sat in the library, it would help me unwind from like the lessons earlier, and it would be healthier for me to like sit there, read a book in the library or even outside, like, you know, instead of being forced to like put it down and go like, you know, do this and that with other kids or with other people. Like, you know, why? Because it wasn't normal. So, you know, imagine a lifetime of just being like that, like treated that way, right? In everything, right? Then you're gonna turn into like, you're gonna be closed off because you're gonna be constantly seeking approval. Like, maybe this is wrong too, maybe this is wrong too, right? Hyper vigilant. So, and Rose was saying, no, that's like, it's healthy to, like, it's like relearning what we already know as kids. It's healthy to pursue like your special interests. It's not something to be pathologized, right? In autistics, it's like a special interest or it's an obsession. Whereas with other people, it's like, oh yeah, I love that. Like, because people in general are into the same thing, the neurotypical people, so it's okay. Which is a very rambly way of saying, like, you know, a lot of things in autism are pathologized, and then when you grow up, you have to relearn that, no, that stuff wasn't wrong, what you were, like, innately doing. Or, you know, autistics, often our parents or whoever, work really hard to teach us the rules of society, and, like, no, like, this is just how it is. You have to, like, value this, and you have to be like this. Like, this is just how it is. Just, you know, subdue, like cut back on whatever comes naturally to you. And then later, like, all the other like neurotypical people, even they're finding like, oh no, that was like, society was wrong about that. You know, you shouldn't like bow down to society standards, whatever. And then, you know, then the autistic person who intrinsically knew that, because I think that's a good part of autism, is that like with my son, like, he is just happy and content being himself. He's not comparing himself, right? It's the grown-ups who teach the children to compare themselves and feel inferior and whatever, the autistic kids, right? So then the autistic adults, when they've had a lifetime of being treated like this, they have to relearn everything and be like, wait, what they're saying is, you know, just cut it out and try to get back to basics. And then that's a whole nother, like, and as Rose was saying, it's a lot of wasted time, right? Because she was kind of regretting, like, why was I seeking the approval? Why was I, like, you know, feeling guilty for things because other people thought I should feel guilty for it because they didn't understand how I think. She's like, why did I waste all that time? Like, I could have been doing what I love to do and what I'm good at, right? And now she's like, she's having to relearn all that. And so, you know, the point is that, like, if you have an autistic child, or if you know, like, even not autistic, it could be any other type of, like, neurodivergent type of child, you know, you don't have to force them to conform. And, like, arbitrary standards that in the long run, the child, you know, it won't help the child really. Like, okay, it might make the parent or the teacher or whoever feel better that the child is, you know, shuffling along with everyone else and trying to, like, fit in with everyone else. And there they are in the same, like, line and in the same area and, you know, trying hard and to, you know, do whatever it is that they're not even good at. It might make the parent and the teacher and the adults feel better, but that child is doing them long-term damage, right? And a better way would be, like, to encourage them to pursue their special interests and see it as healthy, and try to understand where they're coming from, right? It doesn't matter what level of autism or neurodivergent, like, other thing it is. It doesn't matter if it's like level 1 autism, level 2 autism, level 3 autism. Every child is interested in something, is talented at something, and should be encouraged at that, rather than, you know, being forced to feel guilty for nothing really, except for being different, right? And the world, like children and everyone's already cruel enough. Like, parents and teachers and whoever, like adults, shouldn't do that to the child as well. Like, they should build up the child, which is really obvious, you would think, right? But apparently not. So that is my ramble, which was spurred by watching another video. I hope there was something beneficial or insightful in there. Thank you for watching, if anyone watched.